This video covers the next set of steps, the second set of steps in creating your topographic model from the topo site plan bitmap that has been placed in your Rhino file. It's important when working with imported data that it is correctly scaled, which is why we created a 100 meter by 100 meter rectangle to put it into to begin with. You also, under the view command now, can come down to background bitmap and see that there are other things that you can do to organize your bitmap. You can even scale it again if need be. Often you'll bring something in and need to adjust its scale several times, align it, move it, etc., hide it, and eventually you could remove it. We will remove this later when it's no longer necessary. But for now, it's exactly what we need, and we're going to be using it and start drawing geometry to trace over it. It's important when you're creating geometry in Rhino to think about the layer structure and organization of that data before you start drawing. It's really easy to jump in and just start, making lines and curves and then try to figure out where it goes later. And especially when you're doing work like this that needs to be highly organized, I'm an advocate of creating the layer structure first and creating the geometry on the correct layer. You can always change the layer that geometry exists on later, but I find it just better to think it through from the beginning. So we're going to go to the Layers tab, and we're going to click down to Topo Trace, and we can make that the current layer. But we want to add some more layers. In fact, I want to add a layer for each of these contours, starting from 0.5 meters on up to, in the end, 7.5 meters. As an example, I'll show a few of those now. In the end, you will create all of those layers and put the geometry on the correct layers as you go. This might seem like a laborious process, but it's the best way to have a good, clean geometry that's in a well-organized file. So I'm going to click now on the New Sublayer. You see it up here in the upper right next to the New Layer tab. So from Topo Trace, I'm creating a sublayer, and I'm simply going to call this one 0.5. And I'm going to go back up to Topo Trace, and I'm going to create a new sublayer, and I'm going to call that 1. And you can do this, all the way up. I'm going to make one called 1.5, and I'm going to make, now what happened is I've accidentally made that as a sublayer to the 1 layer. I could do as I just did, click it and drag it back up to the Topo Trace layer so that it is organized beneath Topo Trace. And again, create another sublayer called 2 for the 2 meter level. And you can have sublayers upon sublayers. So if you want to make an embedded kind of set of things, that's fine. So notice our top layer, Topo Trace, I can hide the sublayers or show them. And we can also, if we're working in a different layer, hide all of these at once. I'm going to assign colors to these layers now. And my strategy here is simply to give them alternating colors. So the 0.5 will be red, the 1 will be gold, and I'm just going to go from sort of red to gold, 2 colors that won't be easily confused, so that as I'm building this up, I have a visual clue about where I'm at. And now I can start tracing these contour lines. I want to make sure that I'm working in the layer. So my current layer is now the 0.5 sublayer of Topo Trace, and I'm going to come over to my top view. I might make it a little bit larger. I might make the right-hand view a little smaller. And my perspective is something I'll be using later to see what I'm doing as I'm trimming. So starting with the 0.5 meter layer, I'm going to simply start doing interpolate point curve, not the control point curve. I clicked too quickly on that. So it's this in the flyout, interpolate points. So again, starting off the edge, just going to click on the line. You can scroll to zoom in if you want to see more detail. Around the curving parts, you might want more clicks, more points. Don't worry if it's not exactly down the middle of this line that you're tracing, but try to make it as smooth as possible. If you put too many points, your curve might get kind of bumpy. And sometimes you don't need a point for quite a while to get the curve to follow smoothly the line that you're tracing. So here through the smoother part, I'm actually going to have a lot fewer clicks as I go. And as long as your new curve is relatively close to the center of this kind of fuzzy dotted line, you're doing fine. And remember, you want to end off of the edge of the bitmap as well. So if you look in the perspective window, you can now see that curve. In the right-hand view, you can't really see it, but it's there. It's flat on the XY plane. And I'm gonna show the creation of the 1 meter curve right now, and then and talk about trimming these curves, and then we'll move on to the next portion of this in a separate video. So now I've switched my current layer to the 1 meter layer. Back in my top view, I'm going to do the same thing again. You can work from left to right, right to left, whatever is best for you. In this case, I'll work from left to right, and I'll do my curve interpolate points command, and I'll start off the edge. And you see this time, instead of drawing in red, I'm drawing in gold. It might be a little harder to see, but it works for me. I'm going to zoom in a bit here and just click through a series of points. Using the scroll wheel to zoom in and out helps. And I can just sort of move along without having to lift my hand up or anything like that. A few more points where the curve's a little tighter, fewer points where it's smoother. I'll just zoom in here to finish it off. And try to guess sort of the trajectory of that curve as it goes off the edge. Hit return. So now I have two curves created on their correct layers. If I were to hide the 0.5 layer, you see that 0.5 contour disappears. I'm going to now use my perspective window and zoom in. And what you'll want to do with each of these is trim them using this rectangle that we drew initially. So I can select that. I can hit the trim command here, or I can just type in trim. And it asks me to select the object to trim, because I've already selected the trimming object, and I can just cut the ends of these lines, these curves I created at both sides, to trim them. And they are now geometry that we can use to make the surface. So that is the end of this video. What you should do next is follow the procedures I just showed, going from layer to layer, creating new sublayers for 2.5, etc., up to 7.5, and carefully trace each of these contour curves as you go, keeping in mind as you go that some of them have more than one contour. You'll see that in a minute. But they don't simply go from edge to edge. Some of them are closed contours that exist, so there might be more than one curve, say for the 1.5, 2 meter, etc., on the way up. All right, stay tuned for the next video.